everybody, it is episode 118 of the HooperCast.
Oh, yeah.
Dustin and I are here, coming right at you, bringing you some good old-fashioned HooperCast. Actually, soon to be good old-fashioned HooperCast, as it turns out. So, anyway, how's it going, Dustin? I can see you.
I know, it's been a long time since A, I've seen you, and B, we've done an episode.
Yes, it has. Dustin has been quite busy with some fancy stuff, but it's given me a chance to exercise my radio muscles, of which I had zero. I was telling John, there's a couple episodes where I was dying. I was just struggling to find stuff to talk. I think there was one episode where I think you had watched everything, and then you couldn't do it, and then I was in here, I was like, oh, God, I have nothing. And I was like, grasping at straws. I was like, thank God this isn't, like, terrestrial radio, because I would be the program director would have ousted me that day.
Right, sure.
Yeah, it was just bad. I was like, and I think this person, let's look at the news we've got. It was bad. It was terrible. And I released it almost live to tape. I did cut out big areas that didn't go anywhere. But gotcha. I kept in a lot of me not knowing what to do next.
Sure.
I don't know. I can't remember what episode that was, but
it was good for posterity.
It was good. So now I'm a little bit better at clicking my heels, dancing around, and trying to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, this filling in my tooth is flaring up again when I drink liquids, not just cold liquid, but any kind of liquid. That's weird because that usually happens right after you go to the dentist.
Right. So it's like pain?
It's just like a weird little...
Oh, weird.
Anyway, that's unrelated.
I was there not too long ago.
Oh, yeah?
It went away. Yeah, I didn't go to the dentist. I wasn't responsible. I just let it fester until it died out.
It hurts. It hurts right now.
Yeah.
So Dustin and I have kind of I know we kind of made a little announcement in the last episode, but this is sort of part 2 of that announcement. So I believe in episode 117 we mentioned that we were going to go on somewhat of a hiatus. I'd call it a half hiatus because we're still on it, but here we are.
Right.
So between Dustin's busy work schedule, everything going on with me at home, we decided it'd be easier to essentially temporarily decommit ourselves from doing a weekly show for you guys and just sort of take a step back a little bit. And the third part of that equation was also the Podbean account. As you are hopefully listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, it's because we have an RSS feed, because we have a Podbean account. And we have a Podbean account because we paid for a Podbean account. Well, there's no more money for the Podbean account, so we are not going to have a Podbean account. Right. Dustin and I, a year ago, last April, talked about the prospect of wanting to get the podcast on iTunes. That was the next goal, was let's get the podcast on iTunes. It'd be super legit, and it might expand the listeners base a little bit. And so we pretty much said, let's give it a year, and if it doesn't do enough for us, then we'll take a step back. It's been about a year, a little bit, about 11 months. And it has, I think, actually grown the listeners a little bit.
Yeah, I think it has.
And that's good. But there's no more money left to put into that particular aspect of the podcast.
Right.
So what we're going to do, we're essentially going to regroup. So we hope to return to iTunes and to Podbean whenever we can. But for the time being, especially since we were going to have to slow down with our episode lists, because before we were paying, $10 a month, and we were getting 4 or 5 episodes out of it.
Out of each month, yeah.
And so if we're only going to be getting 1 or 2 out of each month, it's a great. It just feels like a bigger expenditure on our part. So
right.
So right now, that's what's going to happen. So on April 7th, that's going to be the day. That's when the next payment is due for Podbean, and they will receive a ping from my bank account that tells them there's nothing, and they'll probably suspend the account, or I'll have to cancel it. So April 7th, you have until April 7th if you listen to this podcast through iTunes and Stitcher. To continue listening on those particular devices or to catch up or whatever. I suspect that not only will new episodes not be posted on iTunes, but I also think they'll probably pull the old ones because I think they will get rid of the feed for someone else named HooperCast who wants to use
Right.
.rss, whatever.
Right.
The good news is we're not going to stop doing the show. I wasn't kidding when I said old school, good old-fashioned HooperCast because Dustin and I still have YouTube as a platform, and we have neglected our friend YouTube
we have.
as a second-run theater for our episodes because we've been so focused on the iTunes, stuff. So YouTube is not going to be our number one thing again. The reason, and one of the reasons we wanted to get onto iTunes was so that people could download these episodes to their phones, to their devices, anywhere, and listen to it. And I still will miss that convenience that people have. One of those people being me. I like the sound of my own voice. I like listening to our show. I like listening to
download it too.
I like listening to it through the podcast feed.
Right.
But the good news is there are other ways to do that. I don't know how many people listening have unlimited data or work somewhere where they have internet access and are not bothered by bosses, but a lot more people listen to long-form things on YouTube at work than I would have thought, years ago.
Sure.
And there's also websites. If you just Google YouTube to MP3 converter, Dustin and I have no problem if you just grab the URL and convert it to an MP3 and download it yourself and put it on your own phone.
That's fine.
If you have to listen to it offline.
That's fine with us.
We get it. So,
we won't press charges.
We will not press charges. We want people to listen to the show, and we, at this time, do not care about piracy.
At this time.
Yes. We surrender. So
we surrender to the pirates.
Yeah. So, anyway, for the time being, that's how it's going to be. So, I would go ahead and say this episode, obviously, is on iTunes. We're going to do one more next week or the week after. There'll be more of like a pre-rec. And then that will be it. And everything else will be on YouTube first. So when we post the links for the episodes, it'll be the YouTube link. So anyway, but we're still going to do the Letterboxd stuff if people keep emailing us in. And if you don't, we're just going to give them to our friends. So,
Yeah, or us.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
The winner in February is Dustin. The winner in March is Hooper.
Shouldn't the HooperCast Letterboxd account be a pro account?
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I'll have to talk to Matt about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well. Anyway.
Hey, they have an app now, by the way.
I was going to mention that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's go. Hey, this episode is brought to you in part by Letterboxd. For those of you who don't know, Letterboxd is a social network that lets you track, rate, and review the films you watch, make lists, and plenty more. The great thing about Letterboxd, and I always say this, and I've said it a lot lately, and Dustin, I think you like this about it too, Letterboxd is Facebook without a bunch of political posts.
Yeah.
It's purely movie-based social networking, and it's really cool to just read other people's thoughts on films. People that maybe they fancy themselves critics like us, but they're not like,
published.
Yeah, they're not published, jaded, pretentious critics. Like they're real people.
Exactly.
With these film reviews. So I think that's something that's really great about Letterboxd. And as Dustin said, they now have an app. And I was waiting on their app for a while because I knew it was coming down the pipe. And then they were like, hey, we have it? and I grabbed it right away and put it on my phone. I logged in HooperCast. I saw all the reviews we've written down. That's another thing we're going to be better at, by the way, in the future, is putting the Letterboxd reviews up and stuff, because I owe you guys a few of those lately. So Letterboxd is fantastic. So what else is great about Letterboxd is that if you want a pro account, Letterboxd is free, but if you want a pro accounts are not free. They're a little bit more of a premium, but you get additional features such as customized summary of your past year's viewing, a bunch of other cool stuff. But if you would like to have a chance to win yourself a free 1-year pro account, or upgrade to a pro account if you're already a user of this fine service, you can email our show at hoopercast@gmail.com for your chance to win. Anyway, we have a keyword for every month. We announce a winner at the end of each month. So the keyword for March, I believe, was bitches, because I couldn't think of anything else. So we're almost at the end of March, so you don't quite have a lot of time left, but the keyword is bitches. So if you just email hoopercast@gmail.com with the subject line bitches, and you include your pro account or your account, your Letterboxd information, then we will mark you as eligible, and who knows, you might win.
You might win.
Some months a lot of people email in. Some months it's real slim pickings, so your chances looking pretty good right now. So anyway, that's Letterboxd, LETTERBOXD.com, or Letterboxd in the App Store. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, Dustin, let's talk about Spider-Man.
Let's do it.
So,
I'm excited.
A week or so ago, maybe a little bit less, the final trailer for Captain America Civil War dropped, and it was said, I think the day before I saw the article, and it was like Spider-Man rumored to make an appearance in the trailer. And I was like, oh, because I try not to watch trailers as they get closer to the release, because then I prefer to watch like the first or second trailer, because they accurately convey tone, which is what I care about most, and you get a first look at some stuff. But there's a lot of visual effects that aren't finished, so you're not seeing everything.
Yeah.
Like with the first Avengers trailer, I remember thinking like I had seen a lot. But they hadn't like CG'd the Chitauri or the Hulk or anything. There's a lot of stuff out of it. And there was a lot of shots that they used that, if the effects had been done, would have been pretty spoilery. But they weren't, because they were just plates.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. And I know John really watches maybe one. Maybe. And I think you're somewhere in between us, Dustin. I think you watch more than John does, but you don't watch as much as I end up.
Yeah, it depends on the movie. I remember with something like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I wanted to go in clean, so I didn't watch anything, not even a single trailer. And then there are some things like Batman vs. Superman where my curiosity gets the better of me, and I do watch just about everything. And it's simply, like you said, the most important thing is to get the tone, and then with some of it, like Batman vs. Superman, I was really not digging the trailers, so I kept waiting for one that I liked. so sometimes it's that situation, but yeah, man, I watch a good bit of them. I know John said he didn't want to watch it, but
with the final trailer coming out, it was like, all right, well, I was gonna not watch it. I'm clear. I'm sold on the movie, blah blah blah, and then might feature Spider-Man. I was like, well, I have to watch it now. And it's not much. It's like the last 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah. He just says like one line, like 2 words.
This is not like, and yeah, we're focusing on 6 seconds of the trailer, but there's nothing much else in the trailer that needs to be talked about. I mean, if you, so yeah, Spider-Man shows up at the end, and, I thought it was cool. We got a first look at his costume, which looks pretty good. I remember when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was coming out, or there was a trailer or something. Yeah. And we all said the costume looked fantastic for that film.
It does. Yeah.
Do you think this new costume is better than that costume?
I like it in different ways. I don't know if it's better or not,
right.
but I like it in different ways, and I like the suit. I love that it's very Silver Agey, so it's got like a tiny spider on the front as opposed to this big, like, long-legged spider. You just have this tiny little tick-looking spider. And on the back, if you like go frame by frame, you can see on the back he's got that big red beetle-looking spider on the back, which I've always loved, and I'm always like, why is that not a part of the suit? So yeah, I love it for those reasons. Like I said, it's very Silver Agey, which is definitely my favorite of the Spider-Man like costume eras. So it's got these John Romita looking eyes, and yeah, I'm digging it. I think it's really cool, and I've always wanted a Spider-Man suit where the eyes move, and Batman for that matter, but where these like these white eyes move, and obviously it's like, how do you sell that?
Super hard.
So, yeah, so I mean, it looks like there's some sort of tech aspect to it because there's almost like a whirring and clicking as the eyes move, which is really cool. And you know, whether Peter built that or maybe that's like a Tony Stark add-on.
It's probably a Stark mod.
It sounds like a Stark mod. So which plays homage to the
Civil War
comic where he gave him the Iron Spider suit, which I always felt like everyone was like, okay, he's gonna have that in the movie, and I'm like, that's kind of, it would be weird for him to have that his first appearance
introduced.
So yeah, man, I don't know, I'm really stoked for it. I thought the suit looked awesome, and even like the little like black stripes on the arms and stuff that isn't normally there, I don't have a problem with. So yeah, how do you feel?
I think it's cool. I think probably if there's like a whirring, then he probably has some sort of viewfinder like Tony may have for his suits.
True.
Rudimentary because he's obviously different. He's got the Spidey sense. He doesn't really have to keep visual track of his assailants the way that Tony does. But I'm sure it's some sort of maybe like, you know, night vision or just some all-purpose goggles that
I'm sure
for his needs.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this suit. I tend to not have a problem unless there are big, weird things with it. Like for the obviously for Sam Raimi's movies, I liked the suit just fine. The Mark Webb movies, I remember that first costume I thought was horrendous, and it had like the spirally kind of like swishy looking stripes on it, you know?
Yeah, and almost like orange looking eyes. It was weird.
It was just like, I don't like this. And so when they had that second one come out and the costume was completely different, I was like, oh, this is great. Unfortunately,
improved.
The movie was terrible. So for this one, it's like
garbage.
I'd rather have a bad suit with a good Spider-Man anyway. So
I agree.
But the suit looks fine, and it looks like it plays in this universe. And again, with the eyes moving too, like we saw with Deadpool, that can be done successfully. You can pull it off.
Absolutely.
You know, where in years past, it's obviously you got to give everyone a cowl, and those things can't move, and that's that. But now it's like it's possible to just get a little bit more emotion, a little bit more acting
from it.
Yeah.
So I was reading something. Speaking of costuming, recently that there were parts of Batman vs Superman where Ben Affleck's suit literally like cut off at the shoulders, so his arms were bare, but were wrapped in like green spandex. So that they could, basically he could move quick as if he was wearing nothing, and they could add the armor on top later, or, you know, his costume rather on top later, because obviously with that amount of material, it would be very hard for him to actually physically move, so that it would help it play better. I don't know if that's true or not. I just randomly read that. But yeah, I like the idea of basically like, you know, in film school, they always call it cheating, you know, like cheat this to the left or cheat it to the right, you know, on stage or on screen, it doesn't play right. So let's cheat it. And I feel like that's sort of the same principle. Like, yeah, okay, you can't really move like that in big armor, but let's just cheat it. And it'll look better.
Yeah. I know with the first Iron Man, they had like the full suit prosthetic, that Stan Winston made. Yeah. And then I think it was starting with Iron Man 2. They're like, okay, we got a little more money.
Yeah.
Let's put on some tracking
ourselves.
suits and let's stop it with this silly shit.
Exactly. You can't move in those things.
Yeah, I'm sure like when Don Cheadle was in talks, they're like, okay, so you're going to be the War Machine in here. Like, oh, great, okay, cool. We're not going to wear this big bulky prosthetic, are we? It's like, oh no, we got motion capture now. Like, all right, good, because I'm not down for that.
And meanwhile, Terrence Howard is sitting in his living room in the full War Machine suit. I would have done it.
He carved it out of like butter. Like it's melting. Like someone take a picture quick.
I am War Machine. It's funny to make fun of that.
It is. Anyway, yeah. Making fun of Terrence Howard gets my train of thought all twisted. So no, I like this suit, and I think it'll play pretty well. It looked like in the trailer that he was on Tony's side.
Yeah.
Although in the comic he sort of
He's on Tony's side for a while.
And then doesn't he unmask and then?
Yeah, he unmasks because he's on Tony's side. Like, Tony's for the registration.
Yeah.
So Peter, like, goes on live TV to unmask and say, we should have a registration. So he, like, takes the mask off. Like, here's who I am. And, like, as an example. But then later is like, oh, wait, I was kind of manipulated by Tony because he gave me a new suit and made me feel special. But really, deep down, I side with Captain America. And then I think he kind of defected. So I don't know whether to expect that from this or not.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect him to take the mask off.
I don't either. I think that would be a big mistake.
I think so too.
Because then you are completely ridding Peter Parker of the inner conflict that defines him.
And yeah, for all of his solo movies will be absent of that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think it's weird. Like, it works in the comics because we've got however many years leading up to the reveal, right? So we have invested in this character and his duality, whereas in this, if he goes in front of the live TV crew and takes the mask off, it's kind of like, oh, well, I know about Andrew Garfield. I don't really know about this guy. So it feels like it would lose the gravity of it.
Yeah, I think we talked about this way back.
Did we?
When we
it wouldn't surprise me.
I think we did when they talked about first putting him in the movie and how we both felt like he should not unmask because with a new actor playing him, there's no emotional connection to Spider-Man yet.
Yeah.
And I
agree with myself.
don't think. Then I'll if I can find the clip, I'll toss it in there just to show. In Civil War, Peter Parker takes off his mask and reveals his secret identity to everybody as a way of saying...
Spoiler alert, Hooper.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert for this comic. He does...
It's been out for a while.
Yeah, he does it, and he does it because he's on Captain America's side for a while, but then he's seen too many people get killed, and so he talks to his family about it, and then he's like, I'm making this decision. I'm Peter Parker, and everyone's like, oh... That has zero impact when you see him for the first time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if his first appearance in the MCU is Captain America 3, so he's revealing his secret identity right off the bat, it carries no weight. It carries weight in that you know that he's never done it before in the history of comics or screen time. But in terms of with that actor, you've not seen him carry the burdens or sacrifices that Spider-Man has carried.
It's true.
So him coming out and saying, "Oh, I'm just a kid who's a photographer." And there's no impact.
To it.
And then you're going to put him in a standalone movie where everyone knows who he is.
Right.
They shouldn't put it. The story, honestly, I understand that's an important plot point in Civil War, but if you're going to adapt it to the screen, you could have easily cut that out.
Sure. Well, and also, and I think that was their plan from the get-go, but also keep in mind in the comics, they never really had any intention of Peter being Spider-Man without the secret identity. So after Civil War, it wasn't very long before he made the deal with Mephisto to sort of retcon everything that had happened. So Marvel didn't really have any stories to tell with, where everybody knows that Peter is Spidey and vice versa. So to me, it's going to be weird if they do that.
Yeah, I think we talked about that, and also like he's not going to have enough screen time in this one movie to even build up enough of that goodwill, even if they wanted to do it here. I just don't think they could with the amount of characters in this film.
No, I agree.
So, yeah. Well, I'm excited for Civil War, and that is all I'm going to watch about it or read about it.
Yeah, I'm done too.
So, hopefully that is good, and we will certainly review that. Again, like me, seeing that movie really, really, really depends on when my son decides to be born. Because if he is born too early, then it'll be. Yeah. I may or may not. Well, hopefully, we'll see.
You'll get around to it, man.
I will. There are I need to make sure he's healthy and that I'm helping everybody else.
Exactly.
I'll dip out and go to the movies, but
exactly. So my dad loves the Spider-Man movies, so I showed him the Civil War trailer, just to sort of get his opinion. And he goes, his reaction was, "Why is it that in election year all of our superheroes are fighting each other?" And I was like, "That's a fair point." He's like, he goes, obviously we're dealing with the liberals and the Republicans in Civil War, and probably the same thing with Batman vs Superman. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel like Batman and Superman are opposites like I do Steve and Tony, but I see where he's coming from, and I just thought that was a clever observation that everybody's fighting each other in election year.
That's the thing. Like, if we want talking about the whole thing with, like, I know they're not trying to. This has always sort of been intertwined with Batman Superman because they used to share the release date way back when. Yeah. But even like I saw some, it was like the Wall Street Journal that was talking about Batman Superman. Or Civil War, and it was like, Civil War, which a storyline not unlike that of Batman Superman, where Batman believes that superheroes need to be kept in check because of the global collateral of their actions or whatever. And I was just like, you bastards! Like it did not steal the storyline from The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Returns existed first, but there's nothing in that story about a registration act or anything like that. No. And it has nothing to it has nothing to do with superhero accountability. It is an ideological difference between him and Superman that pits them against each other in that story. In Civil War, they actually have a big thing that happens at the beginning, and the government says, "Yo, we need to figure out who you guys are." That's it. And that's a seed that's been planted in all the X-Men comics before that. They finally do it in Civil War, and that's where the storyline comes from. So if anything, Batman Superman stole that shit from Marvel. Right.
Well, this is true. I think that
fucking Wall Street Journal.
I'll say this for both of them. I don't know how attached either one of them are to the source material. But yeah, man, I do think obviously Civil War came first. Yeah. Well, if not in chronological like publication.
With this idea.
Yeah, with an idea, yeah. Yeah. Although the question can be raised whether like Watchmen came up with it first. So it's all.
Another thing that I was thinking about too is that like I believe Steve and Tony's opposition to each other more than I believe Batman and Superman's opposition to each other.
That's because Steve and Tony are opposites. Like they both believe in doing. At the end of the day, the right thing. Yeah. But for very different reasons. Superman and Batman believe in doing the right thing for the same reasons in slightly different ways. Yeah. So like another way to look at it might be like Steve and Tony are both heads, but like Tony's the head of a quarter and Steve's the head of a nickel, but they're both heads. Whereas Batman and Superman, one's heads, one tails of the same coin. So that's where I think the conflict comes from.
I thought I had something else to add. I don't know.
Yeah. And also I think I buy into the idea of the fight between Steve and Tony more because there's been more lead into it. We know those characters in this universe better than we do Affleck and Cavill.
Yeah, you're right. There's greater context to their feud.
Yeah. They should do Family Feud. Family Feud with the Avengers.
That would be hilarious as like a little stinger at the end of it. Like it's all the actors on Team Iron Man, all the actors on Team
Steve
Captain
Harvey's
America.
there.
Yeah, Steve Harvey's there. It's like, all right, so who? And like they have the whole like they have them do like they have maybe like Ant-Man, going up against like Black Panther, and then like they hit it, and everyone just goes, "Yeah, good answer."
Good answer.
You just cut to the audience. There's the Hulk clapping, and there's that clip of Heath Ledger clapping as the Joker. Yeah, that'd be funny.
Oh, that would be funny.
That'd be hilarious stinger. Because did you ever hear what the Deadpool stinger was?
No, I didn't. What was it?
Do you want me to tell you? Okay, so at the very end of the credits, there's like you just see like this hallway like inside an apartment or something, like, a door and like maybe a couple side doors. Okay. So and it looks very familiar because it's a very familiar kind of stinger. So Deadpool walks out of one of the side bathrooms in a bathrobe, and he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you still here? The movie's over." It's a straight up rip off of Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
And so he does that exact stinger from Ferris Bueller. And then he says like, "Okay, look, if you must know, like in the next movie, we really hope to do Cable, great character, blah blah blah, and stuff." But as soon as he dips out with the bathrobe, I was like, "Oh shit, that's funny."
That's awesome.
I figure, especially toward the end of these like Marvel, like the Phase 3, when they're not going to quite have as many details, they ought to just start doing straight up hilarious ones.
They should. They really should. Just like a little SNL sketch, basically, at the end of every one of them.
Yeah. Or at least something kind of like the shawarma one from the Avengers.
Yeah. Just
where they pretty much
random.
said, "We have no idea yet, so just stand by."
Yeah, exactly. That would be awesome.
Did you know, by the way, for that stinger, that was kind of reshot? Captain Chris Evans was saying like he'd already like grown a beard out for another movie or something.
Really?
And Joss wanted to do the stinger, and he was just like, "All right, well, I can't be in it because I've got this beard, And Joss was like, "I'll just shave it." And I was like, "I can't shave it, Joss. I have to keep the, So they made like a big prosthetic jaw for him that was clean shaven.
Really?
He said, but it was like huge. So that's why in the thing, my hand is kind of over my face while I'm eating because I'm trying to hide the horrible makeup.
I never knew that.
So anyone, go back and look at the end of the Avengers. And if you wonder why Chris Evans is obscuring his face, it's because
I'm going to look it up right now. Hold on.
It's really funny. Here's something else I thought was interesting. I'm gonna have to let you Google that real quick. Yeah, but that apparently that was like maybe I guess a couple weeks down the road after they had wrapped. He'd asked them to all come back real quick and just.
Oh yeah, I see it.
You see it?
Yeah. He's just kind of sitting there with it covered.
It's his hands over his jaw, kind of. Yeah. He's not chewing very much. Like he's just
He's just sitting there, basically, looking around.
They made a big fake jaw for him. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was reading recently that Robert Downey Jr., because people do keep asking about Iron Man 4.
Yeah.
And he has said repeatedly, like, that's not really on the docket right now.
Yeah.
But he feels that Civil War, for him, is kind of Iron Man 4.
Yeah.
Whatever sort of arc that would be played out in another solo Iron Man film is already being played out in this movie. Like what would lead him to cooperate with the government and stuff. And that something else in the article made me sort of think about the end game for Tony because I can't remember if it was something he said or something that the writer said, or something that the writer said was said, that the idea that for the rest of the movies, going toward including Infinity War, furthering Tony Stark's descent, and I sort of thought okay, there's that, but then that would be kind of depressing to end him on a low note,
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I've thought about this before. How are they going to come out of this movie? Because after this movie, there's me and John went through the slate recently. I mean, there'll be a few. Let's put it this way: the next movie that's going to feature those, feature Iron Man will be Infinity War. He's not going to be in Spider-Man or Black Panther. Right. He'll be in Infinity War. So, how will how will the events of this movie form and shape the rest? Like, they have to come out of this some way. And I'm thinking, the only way I'm thinking is they're going to have to come together after a couple people die.
Yeah.
They're going to have to say, this is too much bloodshed. Like,
yeah.
Because that's what happens in the comic. I mean, like, a couple of people get killed, and they're like, God, enough is enough.
Right. I think you're onto something, because I remember when Civil War came out, it really made a lot of people hate Tony Stark. Like, because they painted him really as a villain, right? He manipulated Spidey. You know,
although he does insist that in this movie he is not shown as a villain,
which is good.
Which is, I think, needed. It's very important to not do that.
I would agree. But Civil War did make a lot of people hate Tony, and I think that really, honestly, just judging on what we've seen so far in the MCU, it seems like they are working towards a descent. I mean, you look at like Iron Man 3 and the destruction caused really by Tony's own hand, and his own negligence and selfish pride and whatnot. And then again in Age of Ultron, I mean, it kind of is just a repetitive thing with him. So I could see them in a couple of films really pushing that idea after Civil War that Tony's his own worst enemy, you know, and I think, but having said that, I don't think they will end it on a depressing note. I think they will work on his descent into like this abysmal, like, depressing, you know, place, and then they'll end up redeeming him at the end of Infinity War and killing him. Is really the only thing I can think of, because at this point, if they don't kill him, then there's going to be another actor who's going to pick it up, and I don't know that they would risk that. So I think it'd be better to just kill him. So yeah, I think maybe you're onto something. They probably will descend Tony into villainy, or right on the cusp, and then redeem him at the end. And I think that's a pretty good. I think that's a really, really good character arc, actually. That a man who was so prideful that, you know, he made billions of dollars on weapons and hurting people, only to try to turn his life around and fall right back into the same exact trap that started this whole thing in the first place. It's actually a really potent arc for a character to not be able to escape who he is, and then maybe in the end do something of such significance. And that's why the end of the first Avengers film was so significant. Yeah, because Tony was willing to kill himself for the greater good, and I think they'll replicate that at the end of Infinity Wars. Yeah, but with an actual death. It really is like, you know, when you study screenwriting, there's that halfway point in the middle of the second act, and pretty much every movie has this, where this halfway point does one of two things. It presents a challenge where your heroes either win or they lose. If they lose, it's going to mirror the end of the film. So it sort of sets you up for the fact that at the end of this, he's going to lose. And if he wins at the midpoint, then he'll win at the end. And that's a, you know, broadly, like, general way of speaking about the hero's journey, that his midpoint will echo his end point. And I think that's a fair assessment, too, of Tony's arc here. If his midpoint, which it may not quite have been a midpoint, in the Avengers mirrors his end as well. Yeah. I think would be poetic.
I think he's, we've talked about before how he's sort of motivated by guilt in a way. Yeah. But it does but that guilt really does explain his actions. Yeah. You know, for why he would want a global peacekeeping initiative, why that might fail, why then in the aftermath of that he feels responsible and would cooperate with a higher authority. Yeah. And why after it yielded only negative results, he would return to, you know, really only the people he trusts. You know, it would reaffirm his trust in the Avengers. So hopefully it's not too late for him at that point.
Yeah, sure.
Because then if he finishes too low, it's very predictable what he then does next. If he starts from like the lowest point in the Infinity War, then his arc is a little bit predictable.
Sure.
Because then he comes back up. Or it's unpredictable, maybe he stays down. Well, then it's very unsatisfying.
Right.
If there's no redemption or if there's minimal redemption. Because then every time you'd watch the first Iron Man film, you'd think, oh, well, his story ends with him basically dying alone somewhere, not being a part of the team. You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
Right.
You have to have an exciting ending, but you have to have it not be predictable. And the best way to do that is to start him up so that he can fall somewhere and then come back up. But not...
Well, Infinity War is going to be 2 parts, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, the beginning of part 1, he could be on the side of the angels, only to fall again, and then open part 2 with him in full on, at the bottom of the barrel kind of mode.
Or you could start him. You could do the opposite. You could start him in Infinity War kind of down, but then by the end of it, he's fought his way up and he's ready.
Yeah.
And so then in part 2, he's like full on like hero. Stark,
it's true. It's true. Yep.
Well, anyway, I'm excited to see how it plays out, and
I am too.
And I'm pleased with what I see as it pertains to Spider-Man so far.
Yes. Me too.
It was so weird seeing him. I get a kick out of seeing other people holding Captain America's shield. Like there's a part in the Winter Soldier where the first time, obviously Bucky, when he catches it, that was cool. But there's a time in the street fight with the knife and everything where Cap's got his shield, and at some point Bucky takes it from him and he like hits him with it, and he does like a quick little pose with it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, whoa, that's like a stunning image. Like someone else has his shield. The symbol of America is being held by this Soviet sleeper,
Yeah.
And then in Ultron, Natasha, Widow is fighting a bunch of the robots, and she's kind of having some trouble. So he throws her the shield, and she starts beating the crap out of all of them with it. And I thought that was really striking too. That Widow, that she would know enough to know how to use his shield. I mean, she can't throw it like he does, but she. I just thought like that's so cool to see that sort of thing. So now it's a thing with me. Like I want other people to use his shield. That's cool to me.
Right.
Seeing. I mean, and I think that's something Joss even like talked about with Age of Ultron. He says I wanted to show other people, knowing how to use his shield in a way. Like I think Hawkeye throws it to him in the fight in Avengers Tower. So that was one thing, and then whether it's Thor hitting it to like crisscross and hit everybody, just he said like I feel like it was important to show them working as a team, and that sort of meant sharing the shield in a way. So it's kind of cool that Spider-Man just takes it from him,
right?
And I saw some meme. There's a meme. There's something in Deadpool that happens where the Gina Carano, she's at the top of that little structure you see in the trailer, and she jumps down to fight them, and she lands in that little pose, and or she's falling, and Deadpool's like, she's gonna do a superhero pose. She's gonna do a superhero pose, and she lands like that, and he's just like, superhero pose. And so I saw like a GIF or something where Spider-Man takes the shield, he lands on top of that thing, and they cut to Deadpool, and he's like, superhero pose.
Awesome.
But yeah, he's just holding the shield. I was like, that's a cool image.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah.
It's my Facebook timeline image.
Yeah, mine too. And I think what was funnier too is like, because Cap like looks down at his shield and you see a web, and he's like, what? And everyone looks up like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Where did he come from?
And we know what's up.
Yeah.
We know it's Spidey.
Oh man.
And I like that Tony calls him Underoos too.
Underoos, yeah.
Yeah. Underoos.
All right, let's move on.
God,
I love Marvel. I love Marvel so much. I love their movies. I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
What was the other thing? So we saw a thing that said that they're going to make a animated film based on The Killing Joke.
Yes.
That DC Warner Brothers is going to make a film, and the voice cast has come out.
Yes.
Kevin Conroy is Batman, and Mark Hamill is the Joker, baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Which is interesting because Mark Hamill was essentially retired as the Joker. He had
No, that was all a lie. Yeah.
Really?
So, that was a J.J. Abrams con-sized lie. So a while back, after Arkham City, Mark Hamill was like, "Yeah, I'm done with the Joker. That's it." It was all cover up. Rocksteady made him announce that, from what I understand, so that his appearance in Arkham Knight would be a surprise.
Surprised me. I didn't even know he's. Oh well,
Yeah, so it's very. I played just a few, maybe an hour or two of that game when I rented it from Redbox one day. Not much. He's pretty much right at the beginning. He really was not done with that. Plus, there's a new show coming out called Justice League Action, which is, I think, more aimed at kids. But Kevin Conroy will be Batman and Mark Hamill the Joker in that as well. So that's a more kid-friendly version. But yeah, so Killing Joke is exciting for a couple of reasons. One, The Killing Joke is one of the best Joker stories ever written. And unlike The Dark Knight Returns, I don't feel like it's too overrated. I feel like it's actually pretty on point. I mean, it's a pretty intense and striking story, but it's very adult, and it features the paralyzation of one of Batman's allies. They kidnap and strip Commissioner Gordon, put him in a tunnel of love where he sees pictures of his naked daughter dying. It's not for the faint of heart, and it made waves when it first came out. But yeah, and it's just super memorable, probably for those reasons. And Mark Hamill obviously is a huge fan of these characters and has always loved The Killing Joke. And so I remember, back even when Arkham City came out and he was saying he was retired, he said the one thing he would come out of retirement for was The Killing Joke. He said I would absolutely come back and do The Killing Joke. And he said, and I know Alan Moore is very picky about the adaptations. He said, so I would be open even to an audiobook, literally adapting word for word what Alan Moore wrote. I would do that. Mm-hmm. But he also said I would want to do it with Kevin.
With Kevin, yeah.
Yeah. So because they play off of each other so well, their voices are just completely perfect with one another. It's really like a Paul McCartney, John Lennon kind of a thing where their voices just blend. And so it's super exciting to finally see that Mark Hamill's getting what he wants. And we as fans are going to get what we want as well.
If you've ever seen them, I don't know how long they've been doing this. I don't know if they did it from the outset or if they realized they worked well together and then did it. But if you look at videos of voicing the Batman video games or even the cartoon, probably the video games, just I think because that's more recent footage, is they voice it in the same room.
Yeah.
Which people do, it's fine, but they don't have to do. If people's schedules are a certain way, then, they'll do Kevin Conroy stuff first. And, it's probably a more efficient use of time, but I gathered that they probably prefer to record at the same time so they can actually perform better.
Exactly. And that just speaks to their level of commitment to the roles. Yeah. Kevin Conroy is a classically trained theater actor. So putting his voice out there like that is really probably natural for him, but it's probably unnatural for him to do it alone. So I feel like for that reason he probably really does prefer it. But yeah, man, I'm super excited for that, and it also features the return of Tara Strong as Batgirl. She played Batgirl in the animated series. So just a quick briefing for you guys. Batman the Animated Series is basically two things. It's Batman, the animated series, and it's the New Batman Adventures, is what it was called when it was on the air. Now it's all just collectively referred to as Batman the Animated Series. Mm-hmm. In Batman the Animated Series proper, Tara Strong did not play Batgirl, did not play Barbara Gordon. in the new Batman Adventures, she did. And sort of in those, it's probably like 15 episodes, just kind of owned the role for those 15 episodes to the point where no one even remembers the first girl that voiced Barbara Gordon. So it's poor her, whatever her name is.
She's a waitress somewhere now.
She is, and she's like, "I'm Barbara Gordon," and they're like, "Yeah, bull crap."
Yeah,
and
and I'm Bruce Wayne. Go get me some more iced tea.
Yeah, basically.
Give me a Cinestack.
She works at IHOP. Yeah, that sounds about right. What do you have?
All right, what do you want?
All right, what do you want? You want an apple juice?
Rocco.
Yeah, so that'll be cool to see her return. It would have been amazing to have the man who played Gordon from the animated series play him in this. I think he passed away, so it's a different actor playing Gordon, Commissioner Gordon rather. But yeah, it'll be just great to see those three actors together again. And really, this material is super adult, so I'm not sure what to expect of it. I assume it'll be a PG-13 film. This line of DC Comics direct-to-video thing, they've never done an R-rated movie, so I don't expect it here. But yeah, I'm excited for it. The character design looks like it's, even though the Joker is very different, Batman looks a lot like he did in Under the Red Hood, which is not only one of the best of the DC animated films, it's one of the best Batman films ever. And yeah, so I'm just excited all around for it, and I think it's going to be great. And I believe it's directed by Justin Lin. Let me double check on that.
Interesting.
That name is probably completely wrong. Hold on, because no, it's not Justin Lin. That's stupid. That's the Furious guy.
Yeah.
What is this guy's name? Hold on, I'm going to find out. Hold up.
Justin Lin. I was like, that's an
Justin
odd
Lin.
choice.
Yeah, that's strange. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not even close to Justin Lin.
Peter Jones.
It's Peter Jones. Peter Jones directed it. It's Sam Liu.
Okay. Oh, okay. What's that? Yeah.
So yeah. So here's the weird thing about this is now I gotta check all my facts. Hold on before I say something else stupid.
Is it even star Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, Dustin?
Probably not. It's not even.
If that is your real name.
Dang it! There's a dude. I gotta figure it out now. All right, so talk for a minute, Hooper.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty excited for this. I don't know what platform they'll release it on, if it would be theater or if it would just sort of be a direct-to-video sort of deal. But whether they, go pretty risque with I mean, they're adapting The Killing Joke, and they're not doing it for the kids' WB. Yeah. So it's not like it'll be like completely devoid of its hard content. Right. But I personally don't need to see every graphic detail of that graphic novel in this story for them to effectively tell it. But right. Whether they choose to do it or not, I mean, I'd like for it to be, if it's not 100% there, like 90% there.
Yeah.
If you want to imply a couple things or, it's the reality is like the subject matter is tough, not because of graphic imagery, but because of with Gordon through the tunnel of love with the pictures of his daughter. That was tough to watch. That would be tough to watch, no matter if she was clothed or whatever. Like that's just the thought of him having to go through that is uncomfortable enough. So I think I think they know what they're doing and they'll do it well. And I'm just so excited to hear Mark Hamill just speak as the Joker. I love hearing that guy do that voice. I think it was on Twitter or Instagram. I think Tara Strong had put out some little Vine or something where she was doing some recording nearby. Maybe it was for this. I have no idea. But she was at some studio or somewhere with Mark Hamill and, it was a quick little thing where he was like talking as the Joker and giving her like a hug, and she said something as Harley. She was like, Puddin', and he said like, oh, Harley, you're the peanut butter to my jelly, or something like something just stupid and.
Right.
Hi, sweetie.
Oh, Harley, you're the sweetest tool in my box.
Puddin'.
And I was just like, make another one. Make another one.
Right. Do some more.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to let you guys in on this thing I've been trying to figure out, which is 100% untrue. I'm just full of bad information tonight, guys. So what I was thinking was, I was like, oh, Sam Liu, yeah, okay, he worked on Batman vs. Superman. Nope, he didn't. But in my defense, the guy who's directed the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 direct-to-video Batman movies, or DC movies, did work on Batman vs. Superman as a storyboard artist. He also did the storyboards for Deadpool, and a bunch of other movies like Ant-Man. And
he crossed the picket line there.
He did.
Race traitor.
Yeah, he's literally worked on everything. I mean, listen to this. This guy's a storyboard artist he started on Extreme Ghostbusters. He went to RoboCop, Alpha Commando, then Godzilla the series, which I think is based on the Roland Emmerich Godzilla. Then He-Man, then Jackie Chan Adventures, then The Batman, then Teen Titans, Justice League, Superman Doomsday, Tigger and Pooh, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Wolverine and the X-Men, Hulk versus Wonder Woman, not Hulk versus Wonder Woman, they're two different things. Hulk versus, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern First Flight, Batman Brave and the Bold, Superman, Batman Public Enemies, Ben 10, Justice League, Crisis on Two Earths, Batman Under the Red Hood, Green Arrow, All-Star Superman, Scooby-Doo, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, The Legend of Korra, 300, Rise of an Empire, SpongeBob Movie, Sponge Out of Water, Ant-Man, Deadpool, Flash. It's like, what? This guy's done everything.
Man, they need to do something with Jackie Chan Adventures. That show was awesome.
Dude, they should bring that back. They absolutely should bring that back.
So good.
Did you know... I just found out the dude that did all the character design for Jackie Chan Adventures also did the character design for The Batman. And The Batman is now on Netflix. So if you guys want a cool way to spend an afternoon, watch The Batman. I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but evidently it won 6 Emmy Awards and people love it, so I'm going to check it out. I don't know.
You know, also with Jackie Chan Adventures, it took me a long time before I realized that Jackie Chan himself was not the voice of Jackie Chan.
Dude, it took me forever to figure that out.
Because he's at the end of every episode giving like a little tip.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if you remember, he's like hitting that little wooden weird like kung fu dummy doll they had. It looks like a hat rack. I was just like, that's just a hat rack. It's not, but it looks like one. And he's just hitting that like, hey, Jackie. And he's pretty much just like, oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was working out.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's always like, how many push-ups a day can you do? And he always answered in just this unintelligible, like
cryptic. Yeah.
And it also his sound was kind of bad. Like it wasn't like a good microphone they were using. It was like a lavalier mic in like a room with a loud fan. Yeah, it's like a big empty like workout room. Yeah, and it's like, you know, a voiced over professional studio recording of the person asking the question. It's like, hey Jackie, like what kind of stuff's in your diet? He's like, whenever I diet, I try to get all these kinds of things. Yeah, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's just
oh, they're the same. You racist.
But he would just mumble answer. He was just like, I can't do it now. I just realized I'm unable to do a Jackie Chan impression. I can't.
I just pulled it up. Hold on. I'm going to place a clip of this.
Okay, please do.
Oh, wait, hold on, I messed it up. Oh.
Will you grab a clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger saying something?
I will.
After that to compare it to.
Hey, Jackie.
Yes?
Are the characters in your show based on people you know?
I think yes. When I look at an uncle, which like my father, half like my man. Genius. So many young girls like the niece. Of course, not the bad guy in the Sherlock Holmes. That's you make somebody. Totoro, one of my standard. The character myself.
What?
Very comedy, sometimes very serious. It's me.
These are edited like so poorly. It's like he answers probably in a clip that's like 12 minutes long, and they just chop it up. So there's a cut like every 2 seconds. It's like, I think, yes, there are some things that are, and it's just completely like always cutting. That's the best ever.
It's somebody's job to sit there and figure out like what he's actually saying.
Yeah, and
transcribe it, give it to a producer.
Yeah, not only was the sound mix just terrible, but also, or the original recording was probably terrible, but also then they stick the like score underneath it, which just distracts from everything. So you just hear like this poor excuse for Chinese music underneath it. It's just created in like on a keyboard in some dude's basement, like with just sound clips.
All right, now give me Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want to hear him.
If I can find a clip of Arnold and Jackie Chan, that would be amazing.
Just play them at the exact same time.
I don't know what this is, but it's called Arnold Schwarzenegger's Amazing Motivational Story.
My father, he said this is an embarrassment to me and was stuffing all over me. So in 1965, at the age of 18, he got me set up with his pals from the military to become a tank driver.
Why is the music on this like he got murdered? Like
this is like an episode of Dateline.
It is. It's literally like the ominous tones behind it, and
I
it's
found
just
out
like
the first day I left and I became a tank driver, he killed my mother.
And you just hear behind it.
They should play the Jackie Chan music underneath this story.
Yes.
I become a tank driver. Maria is not my kid, I swear to God. My name is Jackie Chan.
Hey, Jackie, in your own words, what is chi?
Everything is about chi is about. We're doing this kind of.
That was his answer to what is chi. It was just sound effects. Oh no.
Oh my God.
I'm going to listen to that one more time. Hold on.
Hey, Jackie, in your own words, what is chi?
Everything is about chi is about. We're doing this kind of.
Well, that makes no sense.
It sounds on my end like he took a big puff of a big blunt. And then he just started making animal sounds.
What he does is he goes, "Chi is about," and then he does this thing. He's like, and just exhales for a long time. And he goes, and it's about a lot of yeah, and then starts making the noises. This is ridiculous. You have to see this video. Hold on.
Let me see it.
He's got his long hair like me, which is always hilarious to see him with.
He does?
Hey, Jackie, in your own words, what is
Whoa.
Everything is about chi is about. We're doing this kind of.
He sort of just nods like, yeah, that's
I'm
the answer you
satisfied
wanted.
with that answer.
And so are you. Wow. Well, and that man is an honorary professor at SCAD.
He is indeed. You gotta love Jackie Chan.
Well, anyway, that's the Killing Joke, and that's Jackie Chan Adventures.
I don't know how we got there, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah. That's a little gem. I was thinking about trying to make like a best of series, and essentially like a best of either non sequiturs or like, tangents, and just throw all the stuff that has nothing to do with what we're talking about into a series of clips.
Right.
Maybe only you and me would be interested in that, but I think I'm going to work on it.
I think it'd be fun. Jackie Chan Adventures always reminds me. To this day, my brother will go, "One more thing," like whenever he just has something to say, and just to this day he'll do that, or he'll just go, "Jackie," like just every like 5 minutes. It's hilarious.
Oh man, I love that show. That show was so awesome.
It was. What was the bad guy's name on that?
Valmont.
Valmont.
Vlad.
Vlad. I didn't know.
How unimaginative of you, Dustin.
I thought it was either Vlad or Jean Valjean, and then I was like, wait, I think they're both from different things.
Yeah, it was Valmont, and then he had his 3 cronies. Yeah, I remember like the first 2 seasons of that show, and then after that, I'm not too sure how it went. But yeah, they had the 3. They had like the guy with like the big tall dumb guy, the dude with the red hair and like the disco suit, and like the smaller like Steve Buscemi kind of dude with the glasses, and then he had the big Asian guy Toru, yeah. And then by the end of the first season, Toru becomes a good guy, and
that's right.
They he's also Valmont, like the demon dragon he serves to try and get all the talismans. I remember at the end of the season, he gets them all, and the demon becomes like corporeal, and they fight him, and they win, and his spirit gets banished into Valmont's body. So now he has to share his body with the demon. And then in the second season, the demon has 12 brothers and sisters, and so they're trying to free them, and that's like the whole season thing. And then they have the new big muscle guy on Valmont's side named Hak Fu, and he has like big red hair, and he everything he does is like some sort of animal movement. He's always like tiger, and then he like throat punch somebody, and that was cool because like all these demons would show up in like San Francisco and like do stuff, and they would use the talismans to beat them because they still have them. And then the 3 cronies get turned into like these warriors that are sort of made. I don't know, like the 3 real ones die, so they have to make 3 new ones, and then so it's those guys. And I remember all this because I made paper figures of all these people. So I have them in their forms, and then when that happened, I was like, oh, shit. I paused the VHS I had I had and like make some sketches, and then cut them out. Yeah,
there it was cool.
Go. So I remember like the first. I'm not kidding. The first 2 seasons of that show are completely solid and and have integrity as like a creative thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of creative, oh sorry.
No, I remember watching the first couple seasons. I just looked it up. It went for 5 seasons. I don't think I watched all 5 of them.
I watched the first 2, I think, and then I
think I was probably about the same.
I think I graduated 8th grade, and I didn't have time.
When I was in high school. Screw Kids WB.
Yeah, I would have kept on, but I was at a point in my life where I then had no time to watch it.
Right.
Speaking of things that have creative integrity, there is an announcement that was made recently, yesterday, I guess, that there will be an Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah.
Directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Harrison Ford.
Nice.
And this has been met with mixed reaction.
Yeah.
Indie fans are happy about this because they get another indie movie with... and then there are some people who are like, he's getting really old.
Right.
Do we need another indie film? And I don't think that indie fans disagree that he's getting kind of old, but I think for them I'd rather Harrison Ford be Indiana Jones and have them just reboot the franchise because that's just...
Right, and kind of send him off on a better note. even though I'm one of the few people that liked Crystal Skull, I think you can send him out on a better note. Let me give you my quick elevator pitch for the next Indiana Jones movie, and you tell me if this is something that would interest you.
All
right, guys. Indiana Jones 5. All right, here we go. So, the idea is that it's the return of like sons, right? So now we have Indy. He's married. He has a son. But whatever happened to Short Round? Short Round was his honorary son. Basically almost adopted that guy. And so I think what would be cool would you have Steven Yeun show up as Short Round. Steven Yeun is
of The Walking Dead.
Of The Walking Dead fame. He shows up and he's all like, "Hey, Dr. Jones, guess what?" And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm trying to get my PhD. I'm almost there, but I need your help. I'm looking for a thing, an artifact." And this is how you get Indy involved. Because Indy's too old. He's married now. Why would he be involved in something? He has a son. He's probably pretty settled. But you get him involved because it's Short Round. Short Round has like a key to Indy's heart. Like Short Round, he'll do anything for Short Round. This, of course, creates drama between Short Round and Mutt. Between Indy and Mutt. And also maybe even between Marion and Indy. Because maybe Indy's never mentioned Short Round to Marion. Because the whole thing with Shorty happened before he reconnected with Marion in Raiders. So the idea is simply like it's about sons, right? That's what made Last Crusade so strong, was this father-son thing. And they tried to replicate it in Crystal Skull to no avail. So you do it here, and then if you have to carry on the franchise, you have Short Round to carry on the franchise, who I'd much prefer to see carry it on than, even though I love Shia LaBeouf and I think he's endlessly entertaining, I think that the series would be in better hands with like another archaeologist, and you can really set this up because Mutt is just sort of like a rebel, right? He's not trained. He has
no actual knowledge of archaeology.
He's not academic.
No.
So you throw in Shorty, whose life has been so inspired by Indy.
Yeah.
And then contrast that with a man with Indy's own flesh and blood son, whose life has been so impacted by the absence of Indy. And you get to contrast those two ideas of what the presence of a father will do and what the absence of a father will do. And then what that does to the two sons. And so you get almost this like a biblical kind of conflict in between these two, quasi brothers and Indy caught in the middle of it. And you get to tell like the end of Short Round's story or maybe just the beginning if you go to carry on the franchise. But that's the whole idea, is how do you get Indy off the couch again? And the idea is it has to do with Shorty, because Shorty is Indy's son. And maybe they've kept in touch all these years. There's nothing to say they haven't. So anyway, I think that'd be a cool way to bring in some personal things, because the idea behind Mutt, I don't mind. The idea of Indy having a son with Marion that he didn't know about, not a big deal for me. But you rob yourself of the dramatic potential when Indy doesn't know him and we don't know that he exists, and then he shows up. But this way you have this baggage of we all know Shorty and we can kind of relate to him instantly, and there's all this great drama there. I just think that that's a super strong idea. Obviously, it has nothing to do with the MacGuffin or what they're chasing or any of the fun stuff, but it gives it like a personal drive. I feel like the last one may have been missing, that something like The Last Crusade, which is my favorite, had in spades, because it was all about Indy and his father. It was very personal. What do you think?
I mean, that's pretty good. That's better than probably whatever they'll think of.
Maybe. I just think the strength of these films was always when they play to Indy's like past and his personal motivations. So that's why it matters so much with Marion. That's why it matters so much with his father, and that's why it matters so much with this would be his sons. Yeah. And so I think that would be just super interesting to kind of maybe even fill in some gaps in where Indy was and what he was doing prior to Raiders. How did he and Shorty meet? We don't know that. Did they have a falling out, or how did they disconnect before Raiders? All of this stuff I think is super interesting and untapped in the world of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I'll have to see what the story ends up being and stuff, because I could go either way with the indie films. I'm not really too attached to them, but if I hear good things, I'll see them. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got to put this one to bed.
We do.
But thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks for hopefully coming over back to YouTube with us. Like we said, I'll just probably put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Whenever we go back on YouTube for a link to some sort of converter, because I get if you don't want to sit at your computer for an hour and listen to us,
right.
But if you have limited data, just use your YouTube player. Or if you're at work, you can just keep a tab open with YouTube. But if you want to take it with you, we'll try and provide you a way to do that. So you can download the MP3, either save it to your phone or put it on an iTunes playlist or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, Dustin, it was good to actually record together.
It was.
And cheers to many more. It's interesting because the with us using like FaceTime or Skype to talk and having sort of an infrequent due date is exciting because it's oddly throwback of us to do that.
It is.
That's also it's going back to our roots, man.
We are grassroots.
Yeah. All right. See you, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.
Woo.
Ah,